And now it's time for The Late Show with your host, PattyJack.
Hey guys, how's it going? I'm that socially awkward gamer you probably forgot existed, otherwise known as PattyJack. Welcome to The Late Show with PattyJack. I'm working on my enunciation today. They told me in my college that I need to work on my enunciation, so we're going to see how that goes. I'm joined today by the same guy that I'm usually joined with. Ben, would you like to say hello?
Hello there, PattyJack. We appear to be trying to enunciate our words, but I wonder, what is the point? What is the point of...
You totally cut off in the last part, dude. I'm sorry. You were probably going for something there, but you just ballsed it up. It's completely destroyed forever. Your balls. Balls. You know what isn't balls, or possibly is? Star Wars Battlefront, and that's the topic for discussion today. And Ben hasn't played it, so I'm going to give him the floor. I'm going to let him raise all the concerns he has for this game, because he had a lot of concerns, because he's kind of like a very concerned consumer of things. I was going for something there, and I completely forgot. That's like the trend. Anyways, we're going to talk about it.
How about we just go with reasonably skeptical consumer?
You're more like conspiracist now. Conspiracy theorist.
You know what? I'll take it. I'll roll with it.
I am a conspiracy theorist because Battlefront doesn't melt steel beams unless you use lightsabers. Lightsabers can't melt steel beams.
But lightsabers can melt steel beams.
Lightsabers can't melt vibro beams.
Is that made out of vibranium?
I don't know I don't think that's what it's really called, but in Star Wars there's like that there's like vibro swords and stuff that can stand up to lightsabers. It's like super strong metal. Super rare, so they don't just like make starships out of it, but it's a thing. Alright, so I've actually played Battlefront. I own the game. I probably played about 10 hours of it. It's not a super huge amount, so it's more like first impression stuff. So I'm just going to kind of let Ben spurt off and then ask me things about the game, because he had a lot of concerns, and he's probably read up on a lot of them too, so that's going to be a thing that he does. Ben, go ahead. You're on the spot now.
Alright, well, I guess one of my initial concerns was the amount of content. So if we looked at something like Titanfall, I think we can reasonably agree that there was a lacking amount of overall content for Titanfall, but the game still seemed to be getting good reviews when it came out. Whereas now with Star Wars, reviewers are seeming to be a little bit more critical with regards to the amount of content in the game. How would you respond to that from both, like, I guess, from reviewers saying that and as a general concern for anybody considering picking up the game?
The first thing I'm going to say is it has more content than Titanfall does. Granted, it doesn't have what I would say is enough content for a $60 release, or if you're in Canada, $70, which is still complete bullshit, by the way. It has more content because you've got more game modes. I don't know if you have more maps, but you have bigger maps, so there's more sections to them. So think like Battlefield 4 maps. There's some really big ones in that. You've also got the co-op missions as well, which are wave-based missions, but they go on for a decent amount of time. And you have other single-player battle missions. And I was kind of disappointed because those battle missions weren't just instant action. They were basically more co-op style missions. But as a package, there is more content. And the other problem being that a lot of the content is locked away. I still don't have the Jetpack, and I really want to get the Jetpack again. It's like... Yeah, go ahead.
Is it harder to earn the points to unlock that than it was in the beta?
Yeah, so the Jetpack was like the last thing you unlocked at level 5 in the beta. I think it's locked behind like level 15 in the real game. And I've found that leveling up takes a decent amount of time, and the problem I have with that is they have level capped certain items away from it. So if I want to get some of like the really good items, I do have to level all the way up to 50 to be able to get them, which is completely dumb. And a way better way of doing that would have been doing like the old Black Ops Call of Duty route, where you had everything available. Some things might just cost more, but you could get anything you wanted and personalize it as you go. But right now, as it stands, as you level up, your characters, based on your level, you're probably going to have the same loadout as other people that are at your level, which is really stupid.
To that end as well, are they trying to sell people on the early unlock stuff like they did for Battlefield 4? Is that a thing in the game?
I don't even know if they have early unlocks. So
the prices were ridiculous. Like, it was like, oh, unlock all shotguns? Give me $20.
Was this for Battlefront or Battlefield?
Battlefield 4 had this.
Battlefield, yeah. I know Battlefield had it. I haven't seen anything about that for Battlefront, but keep in mind, I don't really pay attention to or pay for that stuff, so it could be there. I don't know. And I've spent a lot of time trying to wrestle the game to even allow me to play it, which is another thing entirely.
Okay, so I think we've addressed content pretty well. I think the next question I would have as a potential consumer for this game: how am I going to justify out of the gate if I'm getting my money, if I'm not getting my money's worth at the $60 price point? How do I continue to justify purchasing the game at the $60 or even at a cheaper price point? Let's say I find it on sale for $40. How do I still justify buying it at that price if they're still planning to have this $50 season pass for the game, which is going to further split what I am afraid of is already going to end up being a dwindling player base?
Yeah, for $40, I think the game has enough content to suit your needs. You have to be a little bit lenient on the type of content you're getting, because a lot of the game modes are very similar to each other. I absolutely appall the route that they're going with the $50 pass and everything. It's something that just shouldn't be there. It does split up the content, and I think that if you really want to get the full experience, you might as well just wait until the entire game's out, so then more people the people that are still playing, the chances are they're gonna have that season pass, so you're gonna be able to get into games that have all the modes and all the heroes, and I'd wait for that to go down to $20 if you really wanted it, because that way, by that time, the game will probably be around $40 as well. So you're paying $60 for a complete package, rather than $110 for what we don't even know is what the complete package is yet. So I don't think you can justify paying the extra $50. I think that's absolutely excessive.
So do you think that people should possibly give the game another month or two to see how the player base is? Maybe consider waiting until they do a discount on the bundle that includes the season pass?
I think it's a hard question.
Or if you could find, for example, if you could find the base game for $40.
Yeah, if you can find the base game for $40, go ahead, right? I think that there's enough content there for $40. Maybe, you might disagree with me. But the really difficult part about this one is a lot of people want to buy this because it's a Star Wars game. We haven't had a good Star Wars game since what I would say Force Unleashed 1. I liked that game. A lot of people don't like it. That's fine. So around Empire at War, Force Unleashed, those were the last two what I'd call good Star Wars games. And as a Star Wars game, and if you're a fan of Star Wars, you really like Star Wars, you might want to go out and get it, because as a Star Wars game, it's fantastic. A lot of people might think it's a Battlefield reskin, but when I'm in that game and I'm playing, I feel like I'm in the Star Wars universe. I've never felt more in the universe of a game than in this game. From a graphical standpoint, from sound design, everything. When you're playing the game, you're playing Star Wars. And for some people, that's going to be a big boost in their enjoyment of the game and how much they play it, just feeling like you're enthralled in that world. If you're not as enthralled with the idea of being in Star Wars, then you probably won't get as much enjoyment out of it. And that's probably one of the big reasons that I'm still playing the game right now.
Alright, so another concern of mine is, and I think this is coming as somebody who really enjoyed the older Battlefront games.
Yeah.
And this kind of still falls in line, this kind of falls back to that same idea of the amount of content you're getting for your price point. with how many features that were taken out with them still calling this a Battlefront title, where you no longer have the class system, you don't have Galactic Conquest, you don't have a lot of these older game modes that used to be in there. I guess I'm wondering, so like, as far as like, we know what they took out, but what did they add that's new to Battlefront that you think, it makes it better? What did it do to improve on the Battlefront IP?
I think the general gunplay is better. The AI might not be... Like, the AI in the single-player and co-op missions is terrible. It's not as bad as it was in the other Battlefront games, because people seem to have, like, a very rose-tinted glasses effect with the Battlefront series. I love it, alright? I played it night and day with my friends as a kid. It was a great game, great time to be had. Technically, those games aren't good. They are repetitive. Even the Galactic Conquest, all you're doing in Galactic Conquest is playing instant action, but you're choosing the next map, and you're trying to like control the planet by winning in instant action mode.
Well, actually, to also bring that up, is instant action in the new Battlefront?
No, and I thought it was, and that was something that really annoyed me. They said they were you could play modes in single player, but what those are what they call battle modes, where you can have co-op, and you can be against each other or on the same team, I believe, and you're basically doing TDM and killing like kind of waves like in the co-op, but the first team to get to like 100 kills wins. It's this weird pseudo wave-based co-op mixed with TDM. It doesn't use the same maps that you play on either. They seem to have their own little maps, and they're pretty small. So, it's not the TDM that you would be expecting. You can also play some type of hero mode as well in single player, where you get to be a hero and just kind of slaughter everyone else as you go. Alright guys, we're going to be right back. Time for some homebrew commercials. So, here you go everyone. It's always been your dream to guest on a podcast. Don't lie, I know it has. Well, you're in luck. I'm always looking for new guests on The Late Show with Patty Jack, so if you're a YouTuber, game developer, industry worker, or anyone else, feel free to get in contact. Those interested in guesting on The Late Show with Patty Jack can send an email to IAmPattyJack@gmail.com. That's IAmPattyJack@gmail.com.
Patty, you have such amazing style. Where do you get it all?
Well, as you may have noticed, I'm constantly decked out in my own shirts because it makes me feel better about myself. You can feel better about yourself too by ordering my merchandise at awkwardapparel.spreadshirt.com. We've got t-shirts, hoodies, mugs, phone cases, buttons, coasters, and more. I'm wearing it all right now.
How do you wear a coaster?
No questions! Just go to awkwardapparel.spreadshirt.com today. Do you hate cats? Patty Jack does. That's why when you subscribe to I Am Patty Jack, you are guaranteed a 100% cat-free zone. Don't let those feline get you down. Subscribe to I Am Patty Jack today and show them who's boss. Because cats are assholes. Play me off, keyboard cat.
So, this is, and some of these points are going to kind of overlap just because I think they're common questions that people have. Problem. So another big one that I think and I had this, but a lot of people had it too, was with that $60 price point and the fact that there isn't really there are single player modes, but there's no campaign for the game. What other areas do you think got polish that helps justify the lack of a campaign for the game?
Okay, so the gameplay and the meat of the game is solid, right? Firing your weapons, all the graphics in it, all the neat little things your soldiers say, just the fact that you really feel like you're in a Star Wars battle. Like, the map design and everything, impeccable. Like, some of the maps are not balanced quite, like, some of them are more in favor of the Rebels, more are in favor of the Imperials, but overall, the gameplay itself is really solid. Granted, the gameplay is missing a lot of things, so there's glaring things that are missing, like the lack of vehicles for the Rebel Alliance. Because when you're playing as the Rebels, you feel very limited in the things that you can do. And on the flip side, if you're playing the Imperials, and you pick up a rocket launcher or an anti-vehicle turret, what the hell do you use that against on the rebels? You're either shooting it at infantry or at one of the turrets, and the turrets just get blown up instantly. They're not really that big a help for the Rebel Alliance at all. So it feels like they really needed to add in more than just the vehicles that they had. And the only vehicles that they really have even are the spaceships, like the TIE fighters and the A-Wings and the X-Wings and all that, and the AT-AT, which is, as you know, on rails, and it's only available in Walker Assault, and then AT-STs. Like, so the only ground vehicle you really have is the AT-ST and then the speeder bike on Endor. So there's a lot of content like that I feel is missing, but the stuff that is there is all really solid. I don't even hate the fact that the AT-ATs are on wheels. I mean, on rails. On wheels. I'm picturing AT-ATs.
Can you imagine it?
I'm picturing AT-AT. Yeah, that's exactly what I was picturing. That's hilarious. I don't even mind the fact that they're on rails, because honestly, piloting those in the other games, you were just holding the W key forward anyways. So does it really matter? Yeah, the content they have is fantastic.
I would actually like to talk about the vehicles a bit, if that's alright.
Yeah, go for it.
So, I have a lot. That's one of my most fond memories from the previous Battlefront games, was the vehicles. Not just the game modes where it was like basically strictly vehicles. I mean, you could still get out and shoot people in the bays and stuff, but the whole thing was trying to damage the overall giant. Yeah, the space battles, like actually having to like destroy the different parts, like on like the giant ships from the Empire.
I throw down to like 1,000 points, and you play for like 2 hours.
It was fun. Best. It really was.
Yeah.
But with the removal of that, with, you know, a possibility of that becoming a DLC, like one of the DLC expansions, but even ignoring that, it could be possibly a bit of nostalgia glasses, but the vehicles seem to handle a little bit better, and feel a little bit more responsive in the previous game, whereas my experience during the beta, they just seem to handle a bit weird, and I in a way, I would almost say, like, feel slightly more shallow now that they're these, like, pickups instead of, you know, getting in, getting out. How do you feel about all that?
Yeah, the vehicle, like, the flying and dogfighting mechanics are extremely bare bones. Absolutely. And part of this is because I am notoriously terrible at flying in Battlefield games, and it does handle slightly like that, a bit more arcadey, a bit more fast-paced, but I had trouble, especially in third person, dogfighting well, or trying to make like a ground run against enemies, like trying to like just fire on the map and take out some turrets and things, because when you're in third person, you don't really get the sense of depth and scale, so a lot of the time, I'd be flying down at the ground, and I would think I was way above it still, but then I just end up crashing into the ground, because just the way the camera is kind of positioned, it's very awkward for me. So it's okay in first person, but yeah, when you spawn in, you just spawn inside the vehicle, and you're flying around shooting other vehicles, or trying to attack the guys at the ground until you die. There's less strategy involved, there's no being able to land it and take out someone else's ship or anything. It's very, very bare bones. And then they have the flight vehicles only mode, so it's not even a space battle mode. You're flying above the map, a la Air Conquest or Air Supremacy, whatever it was called in Battlefield. I don't know. You're playing that mode and dogfighting, and it's kind of boring. Plus, the Millennium Falcon is OP as hell, man. Holy crap. No, have you seen this, man? Okay, so it has like this special ability where it becomes invulnerable for a couple seconds, right? But you can turn it on right as you ram into another vehicle, and it will just destroy it.
Oh, I've heard of that. It's called shield ramming.
Yeah, and you can just do it to like the Slave 1 whenever you want to. It's so broken. It makes me angry thinking about it.
Now that we're talking about like things that need changing with the game, I've also heard a mechanic that a lot of people find irritating is, number one, that two of your little power-ups can both be grenades, and that number two, the cooldown for grenades is only like 10 seconds.
You know, I would have had a problem with that, but the game does really well in the pacing of how it goes. So, when you're spawned into the game, you're basically an expendable soldier, right? you're expected to be dying left, right, and center, because that's kind of how it goes in the movies, right? So when you die to a grenade or something, you're spawned back in, like maybe a little bit longer than it takes to spawn back in Call of Duty, right?
Okay.
I think that I don't know. It doesn't bother me so much because I'm not dying and then waiting to respawn again. It bothers me if I get stuck in my spawn and I've got people hucking grenades up at it or an ATST staring at me, but all in all, like, people just using grenades like that, if you're at medium range or you're in a corridor, yeah, it can be a problem, but that's just kind of like the way it is with corridors. And honestly, the cooldown on grenades is enough that you're not likely to be in the same firefight as you were when you first threw the grenade as to when you can get it back again. So I don't think it's that big of an issue. Maybe it could be a little bit longer, but I've never really felt like it's a huge issue.
All right, I think that's good to know. Let's see. I think there was. How do you feel about the current way the heroes are set up? Because, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was set up in the previous games that when you had a hero character, that they would have a meter. It was basically like a time meter for how much time you had left, because it also corresponded. This time meter was also their health. Yeah. If you got hit, it would shrink it. You'd have less time available as a character. But if you got kills, it would add a little bit back to that meter. So the ideal was if you were good enough to consistently keep getting kills, you could, in theory, get more points faster than the drain rate on your timer. And so you could get a little bit of extra time with the character. That is how it worked, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so my memory does serve right. That being said, the new system, they just have a flat amount of health, which I've heard that, and some people are doing this, which, I mean, I suppose to them, I mean, if they're good enough to do it, fair for them, but some people are complaining that if you're a good player and you just stick back with, like, say, Boba Fett, and you just stick on the outskirts and stay far away, but you can, use your longer range shooting to shoot people and rack up kills, that you can basically spend a good portion of a match as Boba Fett and nobody else can play him, and you're just sitting there getting massive amounts of kills.
Yeah, like, I've done things similar to that. Like, when I play Boba Fett, I go into guns a-blazing because it's hilarious and fun. But I've gone, like 36-2. Because I got Boba Fett for like 2 minutes, and I could just mow through everyone, right? That's the thing with the heroes, though. They're meant to do that, and it goes back to, like, when you get killed by a hero, unless they're, like, camping in your spawn, you're spawning back in within a matter of seconds. It doesn't really bother me, because really, the only mode where your actual kill-death score matters is in blast mode, which is TDM. Other than that, you should be going for objectives and stuff, and yeah, it can be annoying if a hero is really good and stays with it the whole match. But I feel like they couldn't do that with the old system, because even if you're really good with the hero, having that static amount of health, it doesn't regenerate, so eventually it's going to get whittled down to when you die. But if they could kill people and have the health regenerate from the kills like you could before, you could just be the hero all game. If you just did that outskirts thing out, I think it would make it even worse. So I'm more in favor of the system they have right now. And when you get a hero, you're meant to feel powerful. You're meant to, like, go in and wreck shop for a little while. And also, you're the opposite team. Both teams get the hero at the same time. Right? So both the drops come in at virtually the same time. So you usually have two heroes on the battlefield. And they should really be going after each other or going to complete an objective. And if they're completing an objective, it gives the team ample opportunities to whip out a rocket launcher, or for someone to throw some, like, whatever the proximity grenade, the big explosion one. They'll take their health down really quickly, right? You should have ample time as the other team and ample opportunities to take out the hero if they know what they're doing. Granted, they don't know what they're doing a lot of the time. Anything else?
I guess the last other thing I would wonder is performance-wise, have you been doing with the game? Is it, does it seem to be well optimized? That sort of stuff.
The game runs fantastic. It really does. I'm running a GTX 670 still, and I'm getting usually... I dip down to like 40 frames every now and then. That's in a huge map, right? In a huge firefight. I've never had the game actually crash on me. It looks beautiful. Like, the effects in that game are fantastic. And they could do that because they don't have a ton of stuff to render. Like, you're rendering the map around you immediately, and the Frostbite engine just looks so good all the time. It's one of the best looking games I've ever played, and it looks so much like Star Wars. You will forget that you're playing a game at some point and think you're a stormtrooper mowing down rebels, right? All the sound design, everything is like crisp and clean and great, and it's a fun game. It really is. Now, here's the last problem I have with the game, and that's the fact that I couldn't play Walker Assault or Supremacy for the first 3 days I had the game. And this was a problem in the beta as well. And Ben, have you heard anything about this?
I have not.
Alright. This doesn't seem to affect American players as often. I know it happened to certain other people, happened to Total Biscuit for a while, it's still happening to other people. Every time I would try to join a large-scale game mode, like Walker Assault and Supremacy specifically, I would get disconnected from EA Online. Every single time, without fail. It would start trying to load the game, and then would disconnect me. And I was still connected to Origin, but it was saying that I wasn't. And then I could join games like Droid Run fine, or Drop Zone. All those games were totally fine. But I couldn't join those ones, and I eventually figured out that I had to VPN my way into being able to play those games. So basically, I have to convince the game that I'm logging in from Peoria, Illinois, where you're from, in order to be able to play it. And that's not acceptable. Alright, and
that's ridiculous.
It's not. And this is a problem not with Battlefront, I think it's a problem with the Frostbite engine, because the same thing happens to me in Battlefield 4. It doesn't happen in any other games. Any other game by any other developer. This is an EA Frostbite type issue. I don't know what it is. I still have trouble logging into Battlefield 4 games. It'll keep disconnecting me while trying to load the map. Same exact issue. I don't know what it is, but goddamn it, it's 2015. I should not be having to VPN my way into playing your game. The fuck is that, guys? Fix your shit. That's not cool. Not at all. Ugh, that makes me angry. Alright, Ben, do you have anything else?
Well, I guess wrapping up then, with all the things that we've discussed, what would your overall not just yes or no, but elaborate on, like, your overall impressions on how strongly you would or would not recommend the game, and at what sort of price point?
Are you a Star Wars fan? Do you want to feel like you're in a Star Wars battle for about 10 hours before you get bored? If so, this is the game for you when it's $40 or less. It's fun. I like it, and I want to love it, but there's not quite enough content. It's on the cusp of being something awesome, but it's not. You're not going to feel like you're playing the old Battlefront series, and it's not the old Battlefront series. I don't think you should have gone in expecting that. It's a different developer, different publisher. It's just it's an homage to the old one more than anything. They put a new spin on it. They're allowed to do that. I'm not going to chastise them for taking a series that I love and making it their own. I will chastise them for not putting enough content in the game. But that's a whole other thing, and it all depends on how much content you think justifies your purchase. If you're gonna be able to play this content for 20 hours and say, oh, that 20 hours justifies my $40 to $60, that's great. But you're gonna go into it and you're gonna be getting the same amount of content that you probably would have with Battlefield 3, you know? There was a campaign in Battlefield 3, you might get the same amount of time playing the solo stuff, and then they have the co-op as well, so you have the co-op missions in there too, and then the multiplayer maps. So you're pretty much getting the same amount of content, And whether you think that's acceptable amounts or not, that's all up to you. So them's my thoughts. I think so we're done? Are we good? We good to go?
I think we're good.
Any other glaring things?
I guess the only other one I can think of is just how has your experience been with the matchmaking since there's no server browser?
The matchmaking's been fine. Every game I managed to join has been pretty much full. I've had a few connection issues, but that could very possibly be due to me having to VPN my way into the game. Because I don't know what the back end on that is. Probably slows me down a lot. And that's still bullshit, but I've never had the game disconnect me or anything, so that seems to be fine. I wish there was a server browser. I really do, but nothing I can do about it now, and it doesn't really bother me a whole lot. But I'd imagine it would down the line if I wanted to like join a clan. Not that I think there are going to be clans for this game, so it's what it is. It's not ideal, but it works. Well, it doesn't always work because I have to VPN my way. God damn it, fix that! Anyways, I'm happy everyone stuck through this for a half hour. This was mostly me ranting about the game. I like the game. It's not terrible. Ben, do you want to plug yourself? You got 15 seconds.
I still haven't made content. Maybe one day I will. We've yet to see.
Alright, thanks for tuning in, everybody. We will see you guys next time. Have a wonderful day, evening, or whatever.